There was no one here now. The cashiers had long since abandoned their stations. Marie palmed the door. As a high blade, I should have security clearance for this now. Let's hope the system registered that much. Her palm was scanned, and the door before them opened to a catwalk that led to a huge steel cube magnetically suspended within an even more massive steel cube. What is this place? Rowan asked. It's called the Vault of Relics and Futures. Marie ran across the catwalk. Hurry, there isn't much time. Why are we here, Marie? Anastasia asked. Because there's still a way off the island, she said. And didn't I say no more questions? The vault looked just as it had yesterday, when Anastasia and Marie had begun their private tour. The road to the founders, the thousands of scythe gems lining the walls. Over there, Marie said. Behind Supreme Blade Prometheus Road. Do you see it? Anastasia appeared behind the road. What are you looking for? You'll know it when you see it, she said. Rowan joined her, but there was nothing there behind the founder's road. Not even dust. Marie, can you at least give us a hint? I'm sorry, Anastasia, she said. I'm sorry for everything. And when Anastasia looked back, Scythe wasn't there anymore, and the vault door was swinging closed. No! She and Rowan raced to the door, but by the time they got there, it had already closed. They could hear the grinding of the locking mechanism as Scythe sealed them in from the outside. Anastasia pounded on the door, screaming Scythe name, cursing it. She pounded until her fists were bruised. Tears filled her eyes now, and she made no effort to hold them back or conceal them. Why would she do that? Why would she leave us here? And Rowan calmly said, I think I know. Then he gently pulled her away from the sealed vault door, turning her to face him. She didn't want to face him. She didn't want to see his eyes. Because what if there was betrayal there too? If Marie could betray her, then anyone could, even Rowan. But when her eyes finally met his, there was no betrayal there, only acceptance. Acceptance and understanding. Citra, we're going to die. And although Citra wanted to deny it, she knew it was true. We're going to die, he said again. Oh, we're going to end. She pulled away from him. And how are we going to manage that? She said with bitterness as caustic as the acid that had almost ended her. But Rowan, damn him, remained calm. We're in an airtight steel chamber, suspended within another airtight steel chamber. It's like a sarcophagus within a tomb. That wasn't making Anastasia feel any better. Which, in a few minutes, will be at the bottom of the Atlantic, she reminded him. And deep sea water temperature is the same everywhere in the world. It's just a few degrees above freezing. And Anastasia finally got it. All of it. The painful choice that Scythe had just made. The sacrifice she had made to save them. We'll die, but the cold will preserve us, she said. And the water won't get in. And someday, someone will find us. Exactly. She tried to let it sink in. This new fate. This new reality was awful. And yet, how could something so terrible be filled with so much hope? How long? She asked. He looked around. I think the cold will get us before the air runs out. No, she said, because she was already passed out. I mean, how long do you suppose we'll be here? She shrugged, as she knew he would. A year? 10 years? 100? We won't know until we're revived. She put her arms around him, and he held her tight. In Rowan's arms, she found she was no longer Scythe Anastasia. She was Citra Terra Nova once more. It was the only place in the world where she could still be her former self. From the moment they were thrown into apprenticeship together, they were bound to one another. The two of them against each other. The two of them against the world. Everything in their lives was now defined by that binary. If they had to die today in order to live, it would somehow be wrong if they didn't do it together. Citra found a single laugh escaping her like a sudden, unexpected cough. So it's not in my plans for today. Really? Rowan said. It was in my plans. I had every reason to believe I would die today. Once the streets around the island's eye were submerged, everything began to move quickly. Floor after floor of the sinking city's towers slipped beneath the surface. Scythe Curie, satisfied that she had done what she needed to do for Anastasia and Rowan, bounded up the stairs of the Founder's Tower, which was the tallest in the city. Hearing the shattering of windows and the rush of water pulsing upward from below, as more and more of the tower submerged. Finally, she emerged on the roof. There were dozens of people there, standing on the helipad looking skyward, hoping beyond hope that rescue would come from the heavens, because it had all happened too quickly for anyone to reach a state of acceptance. As she looked off to the side of the building, she could see the lesser towers disappearing into the bubbling water. Now, only the 7 Grand Slayer towers and the Founder's Tower remained, with perhaps 20 stories to go until it was gone too. There was no question in her mind as to what needed to be done now. About a dozen of the people gathered were Scythes. It was then she addressed when she spoke. Are we rats? She said. Or are we Scythes? Everyone turned to look at her, recognizing her, realizing who she was, for everyone knew the Grand Dame of Death. How will we leave this world? She asked. And what solemn service will we provide for those who must leave with us? Then, she pulled out a blade and grabbed the civilian closest to her. A woman who could have been anyone. She thrust the blade beneath the woman's ribcage, straight into her heart. The woman held her gaze, and Scythe Curie said, Take comfort in this. And the woman said, Thank you, Scythe Curie. As she laid the woman's head gently down, the other Scythes followed her example, and began gleaming with such heart, compassion, and love, that it did bring enormous effort, and at the end, people were crowding around them, asking to be gleaned next. Then, when only the Scythes were left, and the sea was rolling just a few floors beneath them, Scythe Curie said, Finish it. She bore witness to these, the last Scythes unendure invoking the 7th commandment, and gleaning themselves. And then, she held her blade above her own heart. It felt strange and awkward to have the hilt turned inward. She had lived a long life, a full life. There were things she regretted, and things she was proud of. Here was the reckoning for her early deeds, the reckoning she'd been waiting for all these years. It was almost a relief. She only wished she could have been there to see Anastasia revived, when the vault was someday raised from the ocean floor. But Marie had to accept that whatever had happened, it would happen without her. She thrust her blade inward, directly into her heart. She fell to the ground only seconds before the sea would wash over her, but knew death would wash over her faster. And the blade hurt far less than she imagined it would. It made her smile. She was good. Very, very good. In the vault of relics and futures, the sinking of Endora was nothing more to Rowan and Citra than a gentle, downward motion, like an elevator descending. The magnetic levitation field that kept the cube suspended dampened their sense of the fall. The power might even stay on until they reached the bottom. The magnetic field absorbing the shock of the impact on the sea floor 2 miles below. But eventually, the power would go out. The inner cube would come to rest against the floor of the outer cube, its steel surface conducting away all heat, bringing on the terminal chill. But not yet. Rowan looked at the vault around them and the lavish robes of the founders. Hey, he said, how about you be Cleopatra and I'll be Prometheus? He went to the mannequin that wore Supreme Blade Prometheus's violet and gold robe and put it on. It looked regal, as if he were born to wear it. Then he took Cleopatra's robe, made of peacock feathers and silk. Citra let her own robe fall to the ground, and he gently slipped the great robe over Citra's shoulders. To him, she looked like a goddess. The only thing that could ever do her justice would be the brush of a mortal age artist, capable of immortalizing the world with far greater truth and passion than actual immortality could. When he took her in his arms, it suddenly didn't seem to matter what was going on outside of their tiny, sealed universe. In these terminal minutes of their current lives, it was just the two of them, finally giving in to their ultimate act of completion. The binary, at last, becoming the one. Chapter 47. Sound and Silence. As Endura plunged to the bottom of the Atlantic, as its enduring heart that had beat for 250 years ceased to endure, and as the lights went out in the chamber within a chamber, the thunderhead screamed. It began with alarms everywhere in the world, just a few at first, but more joined in the cacophony. Fire alarms, tornado sirens, buzzers, whistles, and millions upon millions of horns, all blaring a singular, anguished wail. And still, it was not enough. Now, every speaker on every electronic device in the world came to life, letting off a shrill feedback shriek. And around the world, people fell to their knees, hands over their ears to shield themselves from the deafening din. But nothing could alleviate the Thunderhead's fury and despair. For 10 minutes, the Thunderhead's ear-rending swell filled the world, echoing in the Grand Canyon, resounding in the Antarctic ice shelves, causing glaciers to cave. It bellowed up the slopes of Mount Everest and scattered herds on the Serengeti. There was not a being on Earth that did not hear it. And when it was done, and silence returned, everyone knew that something had changed. What was that? People asked. What could cause such a thing? No one knew for sure. No one but the Tonists. They knew exactly what it was. They knew because they had been waiting for it their whole lives. It was the Great Resonance. In a cloister in a small city of mid-America, Grayson Tolliver took his hands away from his ears. There were shouts outside his window in the garden below. Cries. Were they cries of pain? He hurried out of his Spartan room to find the Tonists not wailing in agony, but rejoicing. Did you hear it? They asked. Wasn't it wonderful? Wasn't it everything we were told it would be? Grayson, a bit shell-shocked from the resonance still buzzing in his head, wandered from the cloister out onto the street. There was commotion there, but of a different kind. People were panicked, and not because of the noise that had pierced their lives, but something else. Everyone seemed to be looking at their tablets and phones in confusion. This can't be, he heard someone say. This must be a mistake. But the Thunderhead doesn't make mistakes, someone else said. Grayson went up to them. What is it? What happened? The man showed Grayson his phone. The screen was blinking with an ugly red U. It says I'm unsavory. Me too, said someone else. And as Grayson looked around him, everyone was filled with the same brand of uncomprehending confusion. But it wasn't just here. In every city, in every town, in every home around the world, the scene was being repeated. For the Thunderhead had, in its infinite wisdom, decided that all of humanity was complicit in its actions, large and small, and all of humanity had to face the consequences. Everyone, everywhere was now designated unsavory. A panicked populace began to desperately ask the Thunderhead for guidance. What should I do? Please, tell me what to do. How do I make this right? Talk to me. Please, talk to me. But the Thunderhead was silent. It had to be. The Thunderhead did not speak to unsavories. Grayson Tolliver left the confused and confounded mobs, returning to the relative safety of the cloister, where the Tonists still rejoiced, in spite of the fact that they were now all unsavories. Because what did that matter when the residents had spoken to their souls? But unlike them, Grayson didn't rejoice, nor did he despair. He wasn't sure how to feel about this strange turn of events, nor did he know what it would mean for him. Grayson no longer had his own tablet. As Jerry Mendoza had told him, their sect didn't shun technology, but they chose not to rely on it either. So, there was a computer room at the end of a long hallway. The door was always closed, but it was never locked. Grayson opened the door and sat before the computer. The computer's camera scanned him, and his profile automatically came up on the screen. It read, Grayson Tolliver. Not Slade Bridger, but Grayson Tolliver. And unlike the others, unlike every other living soul on the planet, he was not marked unsavory. He had served his time. His status had been lifted. His, and his alone. Thunderhead? He said, his voice trembling and unsure. And a voice spoke back to him with the same loving kindness and warmth that he remembered. The voice of the benevolent force that had raised him and helped make him everything that he was. Hello, Grayson, said the Thunderhead. We need to talk. Hey everyone, narrator here. That was book 2 in the Arc of the Scythe series, Thunderhead by Neil Schusterman. I can't tell you what a crazy ride this has been. From starting the first book to Master of Doom to now The Thunderhead and every book beyond. This has been eye-opening, to say the least. Can't thank you enough for all your support, your subscriptions, your time, your ears, and hoping we can make that day just a little bit less of a grind. Thanks for listening. Look forward to the next installment. It's around the corner. Bye.
Ja.
Måste ha en i bästa upplag om du får på den där kassan.
Ja, toch?
Ja, dat is goed. Dan heb ik zo. Ik dacht het al duurt nu.
Lingering around me because I could feel a slump hitting, and so I reread Risky Business in one night. It was fantastic. And then I did a whole week of no reading because that slump actually did hit. Risky Business like took it away kind of, but I just didn't feel like picking up a book for fear of a 1-star again. So I did my, I don't know if people call it an annual reread because I have skipped I think maybe 1 or 2 years, but I reread the Mindfuck series for the 5th time, and I finished the first 3 books on the 29th. Break because I was busy with work, and then finished the last 2 on the 31st. I updated this spread a little bit because I read Half City, so I put that little sparkle on top. Took away the Abby Jimenez book that was here. It's just been released. I can't remember the name of it again. I think something like The Night. I don't know. I'm not her biggest fan. I don't really enjoy her writing. I think it's a little bit all over the place and hard to follow sometimes. So I replaced it with Yes Shift by Grace Brady, and then I haven't updated this spread in a bit because Love felt like this year because actually had a cover reveal. I'll put it on the screen because you probably can't see it like this. It's such a cute cover. I'm so excited. I love Judy's writing. I read the theme park books, that first like series she came out with a while ago. Really enjoyed them, and then I think I started the series after that, so I still need to get back to it. But I am super excited. It's very, very cute. And that is all I think I have to update you on this. There are a lot of books on here that are already out or about to be released. This is coming out in a few days. One is coming out book club for April. Super pumped. Oh, anyway, okay. So I put the poll up for everybody to vote on, and Shirley Sparrows won by a lot, actually. also because of the Mindfuck series, I read each book like as they came out, so not one long book, 5 little ones. So that is why this got a whole lot longer as well. For my revision, I haven't read any more visuals since the last time I renewed with my journal, so I didn't do anything there, but I did go in and do the Kindle reads as well as my hobbies. And what's really cool here is that the Mindfuck series came out before 2021, so this probably got a lot higher, as well as the 2022. I can't remember what I read that was released here. I think it was I want to say Heavenly Bodies, but I could be wrong. And I only really did like one more in 2026, which was Hot City. So this is, I'm used to going like that because I usually read newer releases. I updated all of my books. Still have not read a cowboy romance. How is that possible? I need to get in on that. I think I've been more like sports romance, small town, fantasy kind of vibes lately. I've did my star ratings per book, but we can do the monthly star ratings together. Quick coffee break. Recently bought 2 coffee syrups. My friend Cleo recommended them. They're sugar-free, something else. But I got a vanilla one and a butterscotch one, and they're really, really good. I'm not usually like a super sweet coffee kind of person. I usually just do like 1 sugar or none. So to have the sugar-free syrup has been really cool. I don't have a milk frother for my coffee machine, so I usually just warm my milk up in the microwave for like 30 seconds before I do the espresso pod. So I add the syrup to my milk, warm it up that way, and then add the coffee. It's really, really yummy. And that is the coffee update that nobody asked for. Back to the journal. Star ratings. Yikes. 3 1 stars in March. No 1.5, no 2, 1 2.5, 1 3 star, 1 3.5 stars, 3 4 stars, 1 4.5. And then because of the Mindfuck series and because I read each book individually and not the whole long one, we have got 5 5 stars. However, when we're updating the Hall of Fame spread, that's not going to come through because majority of them were rereads. The only 5 star I had in March, spoiler alert, was Hot City. So then I'm just going to go through and fill in the blank spaces where I had no star ratings, and I almost had 1 in every category. I don't know if that's a good thing or not. My average rating for March was 3.57 stars. I am yet to average higher than 3.5 or below 3. I really want to have like a good reading month, but because I'm such a mood reader and because I go between like new releases, series that I'm in the middle of, and then like rereading comfort reads, I never know if it's going to be a good month or not. But I feel like that's probably the case for everyone. Like, I'm not special, it's just how it's going to go. This we need to catch up on. I made an error when I updated my journal last time because Phantasm is not meant to be there, it was meant to be in China. So we're going to fix that. And I'm just going to cover it up with the new one. I don't want to look at it because I'm worried about, because I've stuck it on the decoration, I don't want to bring the decoration page up as well. The 11th week, I read Half City. So we can put that one in there. I feel so organized this morning with my book covers just next to me. When I was updating my journal just to catch up before doing this wrap up, I made little notes of what I needed. And it's very, very helpful to do this when you're doing like a massive update like this one, just so that you're not forgetting anything. I do usually forget things, but I think I'm going to be okay this time. And then the 12th week, I didn't read anything because I would have ended a book on the Saturday or Sunday and then did not pick up a book all throughout the Monday to the following Sunday, which is very rare for me. I usually do read at least 1 book a week, but that's just how it be sometimes. And so because I skipped that week, I'm just going to put a star over there so that I know I didn't read anything that week. I don't want to leave it blank and then have it look like, oh, I'm missing a book cover, what did I read? And then like try and go back and fill it in. No, it's blank because I didn't read anything. And the 13th week, I read the Mindfuck series. I'm just going to put the cover. There are so many covers of these, like fan-made covers as well, because if you didn't know, the author very sadly has passed. Before the series kind of picked up is what I'm getting from like theories online and stuff. I'm not going to say anything because I don't know too much on the subject, but there are so many like amazing fan-made covers. When I first read the series, I think when I marked it on Goodreads, yes, I read them before I used StoryGirl. So on Goodreads, I thought it was so cool. It was the Angelina Jolie covers, and it's like from Mr. and Mrs. Smith and stuff like that, and I loved her in that movie. I also loved her in Salt. It's also like a comfort series in the weirdest way. It should not be a comfort series because of what goes on in the books and like the whole plot or whatever, but I just know that if I'm in a slump and I want to get over it pretty quickly, I'll reread that series. So I think I've done it once a year for the past 6 or 7 years, skipping some years in between that. And then moving on, this is, I don't really have a name for this years. I know that I'm just going to connect these with pencil for now, because previously I had done pen and I would mess it up and not like draw the distance properly with my ruler. So we're just going to use that for now. Okay, and that is it for that one. This one we can do now as well. Books read versus previous years. I say the title of the pages if you can't read my headings, but you might be new here. This could be your first like video of mine, and I want to make sure you know what's going on. So in March 2026, I read 15 books, which will be up there, and I am continuing with the trend. Looks like that I'm reading more than I did in 2025. So in Jan, you can see the green bars higher than the slightly peachy one. Same as in Feb and in now March. So April 2025, I read looks like 11 books. That is wild. June was how many? 16. Nice. Okay, well we'll see. This one in August 2023, it actually was not 20 books. I read a book a day in August in that year. So I read 31 books. Crazy. I don't think I'll ever do that again. That was wild. Some days I was reading like 2 to give myself grace for the following day. I don't know what was going on. I don't know what was in the air. It's 2023. Apparently I had no time except to read. No other hobbies, it looks like. Okay, Box City, I've left myself little notes because when we get to a different spread, I ended my like last update video with an extra book cover for Encounter, and I didn't know where it was meant to go. It was for one of my challenges, but because I didn't leave myself notes, I didn't know. So when I got to the end, I was like, oh, I printed an extra one. How odd. No, I just didn't put it in. So 5 stars, Hall of Fame. We're adding Half City by Kate Golden. Very, very good book. Very interesting. Also made me realize that I don't read enough urban fantasy. So please drop your urban romantasy book recs down below. I want to get into more of them. That was really, really good. She's used the second book. It's coming out this year, I think. And I don't know if we're getting a love triangle or if we're about to get Hamlin, but excited. And then for my rereads, I went and pulled this one in. It was Risky Business and then the Mindfuck series. I don't know if I'll need a second spread this year. This was obviously a lot because it was 5 books. Could have been 1, but that is just the way I have it downloaded on my Kindle. I have like the individual ones, so that's how I read them. That's how I tracked them. Like I made a mistake with like this C with Scarlet Angels. I had to take that out, so that's very jarring. But there's nothing I could have done about it. I don't know how many more rereads I'll do this year. There's no way to know. Who's to say? Wishlist. I added 3 books after updating the last time because I realized that this list was behind lists that I have like saved on websites where I buy books online. So went through some of them. I have my Amazon one linked below if you get curious and want to see what's on my wish list there. So I added those 2 and then actually bought Letter of Forever. But I bought Letter of Forever and this summer will be different. So I have updated those 2 lists over there. I need to say that I have read before. I read it last year and really loved it. I think I gave it 4 or 4.5 stars, but favorite was the book before that I read. I read and I loved this book. It was a 5-star. It was my favorite book of the year last year. Left of Forever, I think would have been a 5-star if I had not read Out of the Woods by Hannah Bonham Young before that, because I read that book last year in January and it was like my favorite book of the year, the whole year until I read Risky Business. Like I'm pretty sure it was Risky Business and Out of the Woods against each other. I just love the vibes that Risky Business gave me. It was very, it happened one summer, like coded for me. Someone's such a TikTok person when I say things like that. Okay, moving on. Updated this list, updated this one. Those are the only 2 books I bought in. Oh no, I bought them in April. Look at me. I didn't buy any books in March. Good for me. Milestones, I am super behind on. I need to update that. It's gonna take a while because I'll have to sit down with my calendar and like go through Instagram stories of whether I posted about comic stuff, then I'll months. Definitely not this year so far. But I can write half city over here. And if you're not familiar with the book bracket, I don't do January, February, March, April like that. I do January, February, March, April, May, June, back at the top, July, August, September, October, November, December. Because I find that it's easier to pit the books against each other that way versus the first 6 months against the last 6 months. I don't know. This isn't the most scientific way to get your favorite book of the month. A lot of people don't do the spread because of that reason. I just find it comforting. It's one of the very first spreads I enjoy doing in my earlier journals, and so I always just bring it back. So when we get to July, July's book of the month and Soul Searching will go against each other, and then when we get to August, I'll have a wild card in August's book, and then the same for September and Half City for March, and then these I don't know yet. But it will be interesting to see what happens. Again, I just love watching spreads go in. I love seeing what's happening because, like, obviously when you do your journal, like when you set it up, you don't know what's going to happen. You don't know how the spread is going to fill out or what it's going to end up looking like. And so I spend so much time on this journal. It's my favorite journal so far, not just because of the love that I get from it from all of you guys and like on Pinterest and Instagram and stuff. I just put a lot of time and energy into this, and it feels the most like unique than any of my other journals ever have. Okay, happiness over. Now we can do more for the book matrix because I've only been able to do this once. So out of January and March's favorite book, so Soul Searching and Half City, which one did I prefer more? Soul Searching. That's 0 and a 1. And then out of February and March's books, which one did I prefer? And I think it was Half City. I'll be honest, I can't really remember what happened in a while ago. Yikes. It's like a favorite book of the month, but I have no idea what happened in it. I think she was his nanny. No, she moved in with him. Moved down the road or something. It was good, obviously that's why it's there, but Half City is more on my mind right now, and I did enjoy it more based on that. So then when we get to April, or at the end of April and May, I'll be able to see January's book against April, February's book against April, and March's book against April. And then we'll keep going, and then I'll see how many times each book appeared and which one is the most popular. So far, that is number 1, which is Soul Searching. This is so behind. I'm actually just not going to worry about it now. Sorry if that was something you were waiting for. We can do the spread though. So for Lover, for Reading the Errors, I'm going to say that my pink book was Whiskey Business. And it's not like a pink only cover, but I just thought it was such a good book. I loved rereading it, experiencing all those feelings again. I'm going to put it down. For the Love Letters Challenge, I'm going to have to move this because I've got so much crap on my desk. For H, for the A to Z challenge or my Love Letters challenge, I'm going to say Heavenly Bodies. Did not enjoy the book, but still going to take advantage of the title and the prompts in the book. So we can put some blue tape on that one, stick it under H. But good. And then flipping over, I've got some more notes left for myself. For my Taylor Swift reading challenge, the prompt Don't Blame Me, I'm saying Mindfuck series. And I'll put the prompt up on the screen. That was almost stuck upside down. And if you want to join this challenge or just have it in your journal or even just track it on Storygraph, there is always links in the description for, I just realized it was single cover, but I was so sure I had printed enough of everything. Okay, so Half City needs to look in, but like I was saying, links for all my Storygraph challenge will always be in the description, and you can go and read the prompts or you can join, just have a browse. Anti-Hero is meant to be Half City. I was just like on my high horse saying, oh, I made notes, I printed all the covers I needed. Nope. Okay, this is where Encounter was meant to be the last time I updated my journal with you, so we can stick that in now, and I will be, and I'll put the prompt up on the screen for this one as well so that you can see, because I can't remember them right now. I filled this in as I was going through the journal to update it, and then left myself notes so that I knew what to stick in. Do not remember the prompts. So for April,